Hi, how's it going? What can I get for you? Yeah, I miss hearing that too. But until it's safe to go out to our favorite bars and restaurants to see our bartender friends, we're gonna have to make do with what we have. That being said, I miss my tiki drinks. And today I'm gonna show you how to make orgeat. That's a real fancy way to say almond syrup. It's not as complicated as you think. If I can do it at home, you can do it too. So, first things first, let's get rid of all the things that we don't need for this recipe. That's better. So, the whole purpose of this is to make almond syrup with what you can get at your local grocery store. So, big bag almonds, some sort of jar, pot's fine, sugar, an orange, and more sugar. Most recipes call for orange blossom water. I couldn't find some at my local grocery store, like I'm probably assuming most of you won't be able to either. So peel an orange, throw some sugar on top of it, throw it in the fridge, let it sit for a day. Strainer, metal strainer, cheesecloth works fine. I like metal strainers because they're reusable. You can clean them, a pot, and a couple measuring cups. So, first things first, I'm gonna fill the pot about halfway up and start boiling some water. And we're gonna blanch some almonds. Water's boiling, dump in as many almonds as you want. I'm gonna do a pretty big batch and let it boil for a minute. Set your timer, start it boiling for 1 minute. And just stir it a couple times throughout, be sure it's equally incorporated. This is easily the most tedious part of the operation, is peeling the almonds. The whole purpose of blanching them is to be sure that you can get the skin right off. So, just like that. Throw the skin away, do whatever. Don't care if you find a purpose for it, you're a better person than me. So again, just rinse the almonds off when you pull them off the boiling water, strain them, put them in a colander, whatever sort of strainer you have, and get to peeling. This takes a while, so put on some music. Okay, so peeling almonds sucks. And now maybe you understand as to why that little bottle of craft orgeat costs $20 in your liquor store. Anyway, I poured myself a beer because why not? And now we're at the part where you just need to chop up your almonds. I'm gonna use my food processor, use a blender, use a bag and a hammer. I don't really care. You just need to find a way to get your almonds into a paste-like substance. Don't dry your almonds off, but rinse them after you peel them to get any residual little dirt particles or whatever off of there. But don't dry them off because you're gonna need that moisture to kind of make that paste. So let's get started on that. So as you saw, that first cup I did, it's well over 4 cups. I'm gonna call it 5 just because it's an approximation. It's not an exact science. So I dumped that in there, measured it out again. It's roughly another 3 cups, maybe a little more. I'm gonna go ahead and call it anywhere between 8 and 9 cups. It's not an exact science. Let's keep that in mind when we're doing the sugar and water portion of this. But clean your blender or food processor right away. If this dries, it's a nightmare. So let's take a minute and clean off everything, wipe down our counters because almonds are incredibly sticky. And if you don't, it's gonna be a real big pain in the ass later. Okay. All right, so the messy part is done. It's on to the actual cooking part. So, what I've noticed from writing down in my book of the couple batches that I've done of orgeat already is for every 2 parts of almond paste, I use 1.5 parts of sugar and then 1.25 parts of water. So I've already got my dry sugar in here and then my orange peel soaked sugar. I'm just gonna add this. Again, not exact science at all, guys. It's just super easy. Scrape that all in there. So there's my 8 parts of almond. I've got my 6 parts, excuse me, of sugar. And then I'll need 5 parts of water. Again, if you don't want to do a monster, ridiculous batch like I am, build it to scale. That's why I like doing things in parts. I'll put it in the notes for the video when I get around to figure out how to do that. There we go. Now we are ready to go on the stove for the first part of the cooking. Awesome. Now that we have our sugar and water on the stove, definitely set the stove to a low to medium heat. The whole purpose for that is if you cook it on a high heat, especially without a lid, you will cook off some of that really, really nice fragrant orange scent. So low to medium heat, give it a good mix. Keep checking in on it from time to time. Give it a good mix. Get the water nice and cloudy. Again, low heat. Once you can stir it nice and easily, kind of just leave it for a second. Get it nice and agitated. You're not going to hurt the syrup at this point. And again, we are basically just making a simple syrup right now. The almonds come in on the next step. So just give it a nice agitation, low heat. Use the lid as much as possible, again, so those nuanced orange fragrances don't boil off, because they definitely will. So keep the lid on as much as possible. Come in and stir it. And again, the low heat is so you don't burn the sugar on the bottom. And just keep on checking in on it. So let's do that. Okay, so our simple syrup is made. Basically, you want to keep on stirring it and agitating it after you put the sugar and the water on the stove till it becomes clear. So there is a little bit of essential oils in there from the orange peel, so it's not going to be completely clear, but you can see to the bottom, and you can see that our mixture is starting to boil a little bit as well. So turn the heat, keep the heat at a low heat, and put your almond paste in there. Careful not to splash yourself with this simple syrup, because simple syrup is extremely hot and it sucks a lot when it splashes on you. So dump all your almonds in there. Be sure to get some on the stove too. It's very important. Get as much as you can in there. Again, not an exact science. Once it's all in there, take your spoon or wire whisk or whatever. Mix it all in there really well. Make sure all of it is submerged. Being part of the simple syrup. And nice hearty agitation. And now what you want to do is basically just bring this mixture to a light boil. You don't want to, once it starts to boil, pull it off the heat. Because if you boil almonds for too long, they turn really bitter, and that's going to upset the flavoring of your mixture. So get it nice and warm. Let it sit for a minute every now and again, so you can check on the boiling level. And I'm gonna go back to that clever time-lapse stuff because it's fun, and this is boring otherwise. As you can see, it's starting to boil up around the edges there. This is generally when I give it one last agitation. Turn off the heat. Put the lid on. Move it to the other burner and let it sit. I let it sit for a couple of hours before I put it under refrigeration. But some people, if you know about canning and jarring, they'll boil the jar and do it that way so the jar doesn't explode. I don't feel like doing that, so I'm gonna let it cool on the stove for about 2 hours, come back to it, and then I'll put it under the fridge and we'll continue to check on it. So after adding my lemon juice to the mixture, I put it in the fridge, let it cool overnight, let it settle. I've had it on a low heat for a little while, doing constant agitation, stirring, getting it in there, loosening it up a little bit. When you pull it out of the fridge, it'll be really thick and goopy, not fun at all. So heating it up really just kind of further incorporates it one last time. It also gets it easier to strain. This is a strainer. I got this for a couple of bucks at the store. Finer mesh is better because you don't want little chunks floating around in there when you're bottling it up or using it in cocktails or whatever. So I'm gonna strain this out. I recommend putting on some news, or as my wife and I call it, the latest episodes of As the World Burns. It'll stress you out, it'll make mashing it in there a lot easier, and that's what I'm about to do. So let's do that part. This is extremely tedious, but it'll be worth it, I promise. So that's how you make orgeat. Hopefully yours will be a little bit prettier than mine. I wasn't stirring the almonds and sugar and water, so it got a little burnt. Tastes fine, just looks a little ugly. So 32 ounces of almonds yields 750 milliliters roughly. It's about 25 ounces. But I think we can stretch that out a little bit. And if you want, I'll show you how. So earlier today, I made a berry cobbler. Tastes a lot better than it looks, but it's just oats flour, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, a little bit of sugar, a little lemon juice. That's it. I'm gonna take a little bit out of this and put it into my orgeat. So let's do that. I'm just kidding. I'll just show you how to do it right now. Okay, now it's pretty purple. So I just took some of the filling from my cobbler, heated it up, incorporated it, strained it, came out with just a little bit more in the jar, which is always a plus. And I think there's only one thing missing now, and that's a cocktail. So as you can see, it's a pretty involved process. It took all day. It's not a lot of work, it's a lot of work all at once, and set it, leave it for a while. But it's worth it. It adds great texture to a lot of tiki drinks. Tiki drinks couldn't exist without this. So go make some yourself, and remember, you have more talent than you think. So get out there and do it, and there's no rules. All right, now for my drink. Okay, so I made myself a Trinidad Sour with my orgeat that I blended in some cobbler with. So Trinidad Sour, it's one of my favorite tiki go-tos. I use the Heaven's Door double barrel. It's 100 proof, so it'll hold up against all the sweetness going on in the recipe. Google the recipe. I'm not gonna tell it to you, just go Google it. 100 proof, a little bit of a spice forward whiskey as well. It's not super sweet. And other than that, I don't know, let's call it the Midwest Sour, because that's about as clever as I'm gonna get after destroying my kitchen several times and straining ground up almonds several times as well. Anyway, with all the foolishness going on out there, I'm not gonna editorialize too much, but I'm doing this because I got tired of seeing how negative people are. We're all affected by negativity. I feel negative towards certain things as well, but hopefully you enjoy this little video. I'm trying my best to figure out how to do this, so thank you for bearing with me. It's a little awkward and cumbersome, but for those of you who know me, I'm kind of the same way too. Anyway, drinks always taste better with ingredients you make yourself, and if you have the time, like I did, go ahead and do it. There's no rules. You're more skilled than you think. Cheers.
That's quite good.